Hello, hello. Welcome back to Peak Northwest, an outdoors and travel podcast by the Oregonian and Oregonlive, dedicated to the exploration and adventure of our beautiful Pacific Northwest. I'm Jamie Hale.
And I'm Chiara Profeta. Together, we take you to some of the most beautiful and interesting destinations in our region, discussing where to go, what to do, and places to see. And this week, we're talking about an epic Oregon relay race, just maybe not the one you're thinking about. It's the Cascade Lakes Relay, which is a 216-mile running relay from Diamond Lake to Bend.
Woof. But certainly not for me, maybe for you, Chiara, at some point.
At some point. I think it's on the list, so...
I love to hear about these things from people who have done them.
Mm-hmm.
I can live, vicariously through their experiences. So here to tell us all about her experience at the Cascade Lakes Relay, we have a colleague of ours, Jamie Goldberg, who is the politics and education editor at the Oregonian. Jamie, it's great to have you here. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So for people who have never heard of the Cascade Lakes Relay, which was me until recently, I think until you came up to my desk and said, I want to come talk about this. How would you describe it?
Yeah, I think that everyone's heard of, or a lot more people have heard of Hood to Coast. And this is a similar race to Hood to Coast. It is longer. I think Hood to Coast is around in the 94-ish miles or so. So it's slightly longer than Hood to Coast, but it's the same basic setup. Teams of 6 to 12, I think, is sort of 6 if you're doing the ultra running, signing up as an ultra team, 12 if you are not an ultra runner and actually want to be able to walk the next day, maybe, like the team I was on. Sign up and you run the 260 miles as a team straight through. So you're running through the night. You start in the morning. I think we started in the morning on Friday, and then ran straight through until the afternoon the next day. And you're just making the way at each leg. Next person starts the run and you meet them. And the rest of the group's just in a van following the track along.
And so you said you were on a team of 12. Did you know those people before, or were you on a random team?
I did a team with friends. Actually, my fiance organized the team and got everyone together. He has his big community through the Mazamas, and there's so he does a lot of mountaineering, but I think there's a lot of runner overlap in there, and so we were able to find a 12-person team, although that's not the easiest feat. I think we had to add 1 or 2 people within the last 2 days after some last-minute dropouts.
How much experience doing this kind of running did you have before you did this race?
I have never done this type of running before. I'm actually relatively new to running, and I've gotten really into it in the last couple of years. I think before 2023, I had never run maybe more than 3 to 4 miles in one sitting. And then in 2023, I ran the Portland Marathon. So I've kind of really pushed the running since then. This was the first time that I've done a sort of multi-run day, or beyond a day. And I did not know how it was going to go. I think I did one of the easier legs from at least people on my team, which, like I said, we had 12 people in our group. My legs were, I think, about 8 miles was the first one, and it was midday. And then the second one I was very nervous about was 5 miles, but it was about at midnight, which I had never. I'm not a night owl. I like going to sleep. I did not know how that would go. And then my final run was the next day, was only 2 miles. So that kind of was, pretty easy compared to what everyone else was doing on that final day. But wow. I was surprised. I had no experience doing it. Didn't train with multi-run days, just trained by running a lot of miles. And I think the adrenaline kind of gets you there, and the anticipation of being in a van all day following other runners around. Once you get out, you just want to move.
So that midnight run, I'm so curious. I mean, you mentioned that was something you weren't that you were more nervous about. How did it go? How did you prepare yourself to make that happen?
I think I just anxiously talked about it for 4 hours in the fan, and everyone probably wanted me to stop. Yeah, I didn't do a ton of preparation for it. I trained for this race like I was going to run a half marathon, and I figured if I could run those miles, then I could break them up and run them throughout a day. And just tried to really stretch out in between the runs. And we had a massage gun in the car that everyone was using to try to stay loose, because you do go straight from your run back into the van, and so it's really easy to tighten up. The midnight run was a very interesting experience for me. I assume other people's probably went a little bit better than mine, but I made the mistake, and so I would recommend not wearing glasses to folks who do this. Maybe wear contacts. I made the mistake of wearing glasses on a very dusty road, and they fogged up so much that I really could not see. So I ran the majority of this with just holding my glasses, and it was a very interesting experience at night with a headlamp, being able to see only as far as the headlamp goes and have no context of anything else in front of you because you aren't wearing your corrective lenses. So it was an experience. But
Wow.
oh no, it was fun. It was very quiet. No one else around. Every so often runners passing me, but not a whole lot, and just kind of in the silence under a starlit sky, and just one foot in front of the other for 5 miles.
So the longest you had ever run before, was that the Portland Marathon?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And did you feel
this was less? My total mileage was only around 15 miles for this.
Mm-hmm. Did your body feel like really tired in a different way than after doing the marathon, or was it similar? Because it's like so much without having a break in between. I imagine that can really like tire your legs out.
Yeah, I found this significantly easier than the marathon. I wasn't particularly tired at the end of it. I think it's kind of choose your own adventure in how you complete it. Like I said, in my van, I think I had the easiest leg. I think van 2 also had some easier legs, but one of the people in my van ran more than a marathon over the entire thing. Her first run was 11 miles. And they give Cascade Lakes, it's kind of fun. For the hardest runs, they give out extra medals at the end. So right when you finish, they hand you a medal. So she did one of the runs that got a medal. My fiance's final run was pretty hilarious. It was 8 miles up to Mount Bachelor, so a ton of elevation. But usually Cascade Lakes, because it takes place at the end of June, is happening in really warm, nice summer weather. But this was, if anyone remembers that weekend in June when it was abnormally raining everywhere. And so running up to Mount Bachelor, it was a snowstorm. So he got a medal for running 8 miles uphill in a snowstorm. I don't know, just adrenaline carrying him, I guess. But
Wow.
So
As he should. That's a well-deserved medal.
So I think they were maybe a little bit more tired towards the end because they were really pushing it. And I think because I did 8 and then 5 and then, got a little bit of like rest after that and only had to run 2 mile as a final, it wasn't as hard as I was expecting.
That's interesting that it's like such a wide like spectrum of how much you're running and how little you're running, because I'm training for Hood to Coast right now and it's really not that wide. Like the longest run is maybe like 18 or 19 miles total and the shortest is probably somewhere around like 14, 15. So it's like whichever one you're doing, you're still like kind of at a similar point with everybody else.
I think that a lot of them are in Cascade Lakes. 14 is about the lowest, and then I think it goes up. A lot of people are between 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. But then there's just like a couple outliers that really, they have a couple built in for people that really want to kill it.
I'm really curious about the scenery here because this is, the Central Cascades, a very beautiful spot. You talked about the starry night on the dusty road. which is a whole, vibe in and of itself. But what other kind of scenery did you experience? What was it like being out there?
Yeah, I mean, you get it's varied throughout the run. You start at Diamond Lake, and the first leg of the run. I want to be this runner if I do it again, because I think he got the prettiest runs of all of us. But the first leg of the run is just running around Diamond Lake, and so you're just getting a beautiful lake run, pretty flat, and then a lot of it's on roads, but the scenery in the background, you get mountains. It changes throughout. My runs, I don't think were the prettiest of all of them. My first run was just running along power lines on a trail. So I got several dusty runs, I guess. But it was still nice. You're just walking along like a path that I think people usually would run along. My final run was just running along the road to Bachelor, which is, you are running along a road. A lot of it's running along roads, but I think that's a really pretty area. I mean, I've gone out there just to go down to the lake or go up to Bachelor with family before, and so it's still a pretty view.
So besides that really dusty road, were there any other big challenges, either physical or mental, that you had to deal with?
I think the biggest challenge and what I was most worried going in, and I think people for Hood to Coast would probably say the same, was the lack of sleep. We, I think we had it slightly easier than Van 2 because we were done by maybe 2 a.m. or so. But then you're starting again pretty early at, I want to say 6 or 7. They have it set up so there's space at Lapine High School. It kind of looks like a disaster zone. They've set it up where there's mattresses all throughout the gym, just lined up there. And you just go in and you just find an empty mattress and just crash for a 3-hour nap. And that's your nighttime. Get
Wow.
up. They serve pancakes there. So you get up and have your little pancake breakfast, and then you're back in the van and back going to meet the other van who's been running through the night. So that was definitely the hardest part. I really didn't know how that would go. I think I sleep 8-9 hours a night, so this was way out of my comfort zone, but I think the adrenaline sort of pulls you through.
This is such an interesting way to do running. I mean, as a non-runner, I feel like my understanding had always been of running, it's something you do by yourself, running around your neighborhood, around a park, around a trail, or you're running in a marathon. Not a marathon, but in a race, right?
Yeah.
Of any kind. And this relay race way of doing it, where you're in a van, you're on a team, you're up late, you're sleeping on mattresses in a high school, et cetera, et cetera. It's just it's so much more than just running. It's this whole experience that you're having. And as someone who hadn't done this sort of thing before, I guess I'm curious, is this a different flavor of running to you, or is this a whole other, is this not even running in the way that you have understood it?
Yeah, it's very different. It's nothing like any race I've done. I mean, I think there is something very different about trying to run and stop and run and stop over an extended period of hours versus just go out, do whatever miles you've trained for, in and out, and your experience is a 4-hour day. I mean, a marathon takes a while, but ultimately the experience is depending on how fast you are, 3 to 5 hours, and then it's done. Because it's such a long race and you're in vans and there's all this downtime where you're not running, but someone on your team is, I think there's a lot of just, it's very social as an experience, whereas I don't think a marathon is in the same way. There's a lot of teams that really get into just the silliness of this. People draw pictures on their vans. And there's one famous Cascade Lakes Relay team. They deck out their van into a 2-decker. What they basically have a 2-decker bus, and you can climb up to the top, and they will give out free like beer and seltzer and energy drinks. And then they have like a slide that they've created so you can slide down from the top of their van. And they're playing music the entire time. So that van, it's called That CLR Van, comes through, and you at 2 a.m, and you just see them partying on that van. And then I think one of the runs is a costume run, so everyone's dressed up, and so there's just like a lot of this kind of social element and camaraderie that I don't necessarily know that you get in the same way from just running a half marathon or a marathon. I should mention the other really cool part, it was fun part, although we were so tired, I don't even know how we didn't experience that long, is at nighttime when the two vans meet, because your teams are split up into usually 6 people in each van, and then you have the switch off point. Everyone in van 1 has run, and now everyone in van 2 will run. That meeting point that took place at night after this run on the dusty road that we were talking about, there was just like a rave. And people are just there. There's like cider and beer and non-alcoholic beverages, and people are just like dancing. Like, I want to go to sleep right now, but this is a hilarious, fun experience too.
It's crazy to me that people can drink and then still run afterwards, because that sounds awful.
Yeah, I mean, I can't describe how to do that, because I tend to agree. So I waited till after the race was done.
So you kind of said that your fiance put the team together, but what made you want to be a part of their team? Like, what made you want to do this race?
I think just the challenge of trying something new. He had done it in 2023 and just talked about how much he enjoyed it and how much fun it was. And I think I've been, in the last few years, really just trying to push myself athletically, like trying to run the marathon. I've done a couple half marathons, and this just seemed like a new way to challenge myself and see if I could do it. And yeah, it's because we got a group of friends together that all knew each other, just sort of, all the friends are doing it. It's going to be a fun time. Figured I would see how it would go. Worst comes to worst, I do it once and not again, but I ended up having a much better experience than I knew I would.
So you're going to do it again? Is that how you're feeling?
I would, yeah. I don't know if I'll do it next year or make it like an annual tradition, but I certainly would. If I get asked to do another team, or we think about putting one together, I definitely would. I'd highly recommend it.
Are there any other races or like challenges similar to the Cascade Lakes Relay that now you feel like you're open to? Like, it kind of opened that door to like these crazy fun races.
I don't know. I still want to do Hood to Coast too, just to get the comparison at some point. I think that would be fun to try them both. I think I'm still learning about all the races out there. I mean, Oregon and the Pacific Northwest just seems to have so many cool races. And I'm not sure I'm ready for an ultra or anything that takes running to that level. So some of the really silly ones I've heard of are probably not in my future if they involve longer than a marathon length. But yeah, I'm very open to learn more about what's out there at this point.
You mentioned this aspect of wanting to sort of challenge yourself, to push yourself to these new, athletic challenges. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that more. Maybe it's sort of like a duh question, but like, why? What about that appeals to you, and what do you get out of that?
I always see these like videos on Instagram where people talk about like former college athletes. What do you do now? And they're all runners, because what else are we gonna do? But I do think there's some truth to that. I played college softball, so and I played competitive sports of all types growing up. So I was very used to being on these teams, competing for things, challenging myself physically. And then you graduate college and you're just done. There's no more team. There's no more competitive level. And I really miss that. I play, recreational slow pitch softball. That's fun. But it's not really the same. And so I've found getting into running is this opportunity to get back some of that challenge, and feeling like you're working towards something, seeing yourself get better with cardio, and a 4-mile run becoming easy, which is not something I ever thought could happen. I used to say, I'm just not a runner. I'm not going to be a runner. My body's not built like that. And seeing how that could change just feels really good. So I think that, at least for me, it's always been something as a competitive athlete of I've really enjoyed pushing myself, and this is just the avenue that I think a lot of people seem to find in adulthood when we don't have, competitive youth sports anymore.
And it sounds like with this race, this Cascade Lakes, that you were able to do some of that with a team.
Yes.
Did that sort of bring back sort of any of those feelings of like doing competitive sports, being on a team?
Yeah, that part was really nice, to be able to be competing together. Sort of you sort of set a goal too at the beginning of, you have to give them a sense of when you are going to finish. I think that's more to balance out, so they have an idea of when teams are expected to come through the finish line. But it does sort of set this pace of like, how fast are we going on? And then it was sort of wild. So many people on my team were like, yeah, I'm going to be running at this pace, and then just completely blew that out of the water. Like you're there with the team, you're seeing everyone else run faster, you're running past other teams, you're passing people on the course, and you just get that team competitiveness mentality just comes back, and you just want to push it as hard as you can.
I feel like that's like the best part about races like this, because I have like a similar experience where I did team sports growing up, and then I, went to college, graduated, and there weren't any similar activities. So I joined a running club, and that's like what kind of like filled that void a little bit. And it's like the only reason why I'm doing this race is because I really like the people on that team and I really want to like spend more time with them and train with them, and like it's like that entire experience of being part of a team that has made it enjoyable, that has made me like want to continue pushing myself.
Yeah, I mean, you spend a lot of time on Hood to Coast or Cascade Lakes in a van with these people, so it would be hard. I mean, I know people who do it, and it's a great way, I think, to meet people and get to know people in a very quick, like, you have to become friends if you're going to spend that much time in a van driving around. But it is great when it's people and friends, because you guys all are sweaty and sticky in a van. There's trash everywhere, and you're just driving around. Kind of have to like being around each other.
Well, so Jamie, for folks who are listening to this and are like, wow, I want to get in on this, I love this idea, do you have any advice for folks who want to get in on Cascade Lakes and try this out for themselves?
I mean, I think just get your team together. I think signups are, I didn't look that up in advance, unfortunately, and maybe you can drop in the chat, but I think that there's signups are already happening in a couple months. And so even though it's next June, I think that, start thinking about your team and seeing if people want to do this. I will say that we did the 216 mile race, which is 36 legs, usually 8 to 12 runners. That might sound a bit intense to some folks that want to get involved but aren't really sure if they want to commit to that many miles or that much distance. There is also the CLR 24, which is 24 legs and only 132 miles, which people also can do with up to 12 runners. So that's another option for shorter distances. They also have a 94-mile walk relay, which is 8 legs. And then for people they really want to go all out, you can do it with fewer runners with the ultra teams that they have. So there's a lot of different options to approach this depending on what level you are as a runner and what you want to get out of it. And so I think it's pretty accessible for people of different levels. But yeah, I think they already are starting to take signups for next year very soon. from what I've seen from recent emails. So already start thinking about it.
Yeah, the early registration started August 1st and runs through September 30th. But then you've got regular registration from October to February, late registration even from March to June, of next year. So a lot of opportunity for folks who want to sign up. You don't have to make a decision right now. You can, pay a little bit more money and register a little bit later if you want to get your team together, or think about, hey, is this right for me? Or maybe even do a little bit of training and get yourself ready for it.
So, Jamie, do you have any other races maybe that you've signed up for in the future, even like the Portland Marathon or anything that you're doing?
I have nothing on the calendar right now. I'm getting married in the fall, so mostly I just haven't been able to find the time to put another race on the calendar. But vaguely in the background, I'm thinking, Portland Marathon or Portland Half Marathon might be fun to try to get that in if I can get how to do enough training runs this summer.
I feel like you've already done quite a bit of training. You're probably could just cruise through another half marathon.
Yeah, definitely a half, maybe. Well, maybe a half, but a marathon's a different level. Every folks that do marathons year after year, I am very impressed by. It is not an easy feat to train for that.
Well, Jamie, congrats on doing Cascade Lakes, and congrats on your upcoming wedding. Lots of big stuff happening for you this year. We're very happy to hear all about that and happy to have you on. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, folks, that will do it for us for today. Until next time, you can watch our videos on the Oregonian's YouTube channel and view all of our travel and outdoors coverage on Oregonlive.com/travel, as well as hereisoregon.com.
Please leave us a rating or review if you enjoy the show, and if you want to support this podcast as well as our local journalism, please consider a subscription to Oregon Live. You can find all the details at Oregonlive.com/subscribe. Also, if you're a fan of the show and you're interested in potentially sponsoring it, you can get in touch with our marketing people at advertise@Oregonian.com. This episode of the show is produced by me alongside Jamie Hale, Teresa Mahoney, and Vicki Connor.
Stay safe and happy travels, everyone. Until next time, we leave you with this 10 seconds of Zen.